Hi, welcome to Integrated Spectrum of Health Functional Medicine membership. My name is Lynn Jocelyn, and I am a functional medicine trained physician assistant, board certified physician assistant, and a certified food and spirit practitioner. My mission at Integrated Spectrum of Health is to empower people to optimize health through a functional medicine and a colorful approach so that you can embody your birthright of vitality, connection, and joy. So you can harness the healing power through community and connection and to live your life on purpose. Today's presentation, we will talk about what is functional medicine, how functional medicine differs and also complements conventional medicine, and where each of those shine. We'll do a tour of your own personal functional home, identify your personal imbalances, and then I'll talk a bit about Integrated Spectrum of Health Functional Medicine membership and how this may support you on your health journey. So let's get started. Let's take a peek at functional medicine and the differences between functional and conventional medicine. So before I start on the differences, one thing I want to say is both of them have their place to shine. Functional medicine is fantastic for chronic illness. We know in recent years, chronic illness is just getting worse, and the conventional medicine approaches to chronic medicine or chronic illness are not helping. People are getting sicker, staying sicker longer, and their quality of life is less. Conventional medicine is fantastic for acute medicine, traumatic events, having a heart attack, break an arm, car accidents, things like this. Functional medicine comes into play to support the body for deeper long-term healing and to support changing and reversing chronic illness. So let's take a look at the differences. Inflammation starts in the body. That's the center where the body is red. Inflammation is any trigger that stimulates the immune system to respond with an inflammatory response. This is not a bad thing. When you get a cut, you have an injury, your immune system comes on board, creates inflammation, sends inflammatory cells to that area of the body to handle it, heal it, and resolve it. But what's happening is that there are so many triggers impacting the body, stress being one of the biggest, that instead of that inflammatory response coming on and resolving the issue, it stays on. And so we get more of a chronic inflammation. Well, once the body is faced with chronic inflammation for a long period of time, you begin to get more symptoms and more breakdown in all of the systems of the body. So conventional medicine approaches this inflammatory response in the body and looks at the symptoms and then gives it a diagnosis. So you may be diagnosed with allergies or asthma. You're treated with Singulair or an inhaler. Autoimmune disorders, you may be treated with an immunotherapy, Humira. Chronic inflammation, you may be given prednisone. So where does functional medicine differ? Functional medicine looks upstream. Let me go back. Looks upstream here at what are those triggers that are actually causing the inflammation. And instead of calling it anything at that point, it goes, okay, what can we do with those triggers? Those triggers such as toxins in the environment, stress, cortisol, trauma, sugar, bacteria, viruses. What can we do with those? And then functional medicine comes in and says, what do we need to remove? What triggers can we remove? What deficiencies do we need to replace because of the damage that those triggers have caused? How do we re-inoculate the healthy microflora so that it is supported in health? How do we repair the gut lining? And how do we rebalance the body and system as a whole through things like sleep, diet, and exercise? So conventional medicine often stops here at the diagnosis. Functional medicine goes upstream and asks why, and then works at that root cause, that upstream cause. Doesn't even really matter what the diagnosis is. We're looking for the root cause of those symptoms. So what we do in functional medicine is there's a framework to set up to do this investigation because it can be really tricky. People are very complex. So we start with a functional medicine timeline. This looks at the antecedents, the mediators, and triggers. And we make a timeline from preconception all the way to where you are today. And what is written on that timeline is life events, health events, and things that maybe had big impact that perhaps changed the course of your health at that time. We then take all that information and we apply it to something called the functional medicine matrix. This is just a tool for us to begin to find out where in the body is most of the dysfunction going on. And it allows us an opportunity of a starting point for this roadmap of healing. So let's take a look at a basic diagnosis. ICD-10 code F41.1 is generalized anxiety. The conventional approach will take a look and do some labs, test for thyroid disease, probably check for anemia, other basic labs. We will recommend some lifestyle modification, exercise more, eat more protein, perhaps do some sleep testing if that may be part of it, may tell you to cut back on your caffeine, and then say, okay, well, you have anxiety. We are going to treat you with an SSRI medication is a very common place to start. So Prozac, Zoloft, or Celexa. Also, often this will be paired with either behavioral therapy and counseling. This is where the functional medicine differs. So let's take a look at the blueprint of a diagnosis through the lens of functional medicine. In the previous slide, anxiety was the end point. This person has anxiety. Well, how do we treat that? That's the conventional approach. In functional medicine, we can take any of these diagnoses, but we're going to stick with anxiety and stick it in here. All of these areas are potential root causes for anxiety, for constipation, headache, insomnia, diabetes, burnout, anything you put in there. And so it's often more than one of these. It could be unhealed trauma, chronic stress, burnout at work, vagal nerve dysfunction. Maybe there's a muscle-skeletal imbalance that's causing chronic pain that's leading to some breakdown in the neurotransmitters of the brain, exposures to chemicals, mold, other imbalances. So we get the diagnosis, that's when the work begins, the digging and the really looking and talking and getting to know the person to see where that dysfunction may be in the body. So functional treatment may look something like this. We'll do an extensive history of childhood exposures, traumas, and life events. We'll do a full functional exam looking at hair, nails, tongue, the whole body, head to toe. We'll usually start with that 5R gut healing protocol because the gut and the microbiome is intimately talking to the immune system. So if there's chronic inflammation and there's breakdown in that gut lining, we're going to want to start there. So we'll do that 5R gut healing protocol. Test for clues that may or may not have been looked at in the conventional setting. So in functional medicine, we have access to advanced functional testing to look at hormone metabolites, look at cortisol in a different way, look for occult infections. We'll support the immune system, neutralize inflammation. Lots of coaching for lifestyle changes. Visits in a functional practice are typically longer. So we have more time to really dive deep to help people, teach them how to make the lifestyle choices that will support their health. And we'll do some personalized nutraceutical or supplement protocols, retest, release, and then maintenance. So let's now, after all of that just brief overview, let's take a look at your body as a house, using that as a metaphor. When you build a house, it's really important to know what ground you're building that on. It's important to have a strong foundation. Those walls need to be strong. Our roof needs to protect us from the toxic elements. So you have 2 sheets of paper. You have this one, and this is what we're going to go through quickly. And then you also have the clues. And so as we're going through each of these sections, if you want to circle or highlight anything that pertains to you personally at the end of this talk. Then you'll have an idea of where perhaps your personal dysfunction may be happening in the body. Okay, so let's start with soil quality. Soil quality is something we don't really, you can't necessarily change. It's what you're given. It's the land that your house is built on. Is it sand? Is it really dry? Is it wet ground? So your family history, your genetic predispositions, childhood health, that already happened, but it is important to know about it. Social and cultural narratives. So things we cannot change, things as family history, maternal stressors. Now let's talk about your foundation. The foundation is the most critical part of our house, right? If our foundation is not strong, there can be cracks in that foundation and shifts in the house. All sorts of things can happen. In functional medicine, in the functional house, we think of the foundation as the gut, the gastrointestinal barrier, your microbiome, and your gut health. So here's, the gut is from the mouth to the anus, and everything in between there has a very important impact on our health. During your lifetime, 25 tons of food is passed through your body. I just think that's an astounding amount. So think about, you have a piece of food, Twinkie in one hand, apple in the other. All right, let's take a bite of the apple. You chew it up, digestion begins. As it's going down, you swallow it, goes into your stomach, breaks down even further, goes into your small intestine. It begins to be absorbed, right? The important nutrients become self, right? So it's initially foreign, and then it becomes part of your body. It becomes part of your cells, and you eliminate out what you don't want. So do you want to have that apple become part of you, or that Twinkie? You are what you eat, drink, and can't excrete. All right, so your foundation, take a look here on your triggers and your clues and circle anything that may be true for you. Okay, let's talk about our walls. Any house needs to have good, strong, structured walls. So walls are supportive structures like emotional boundaries, self-care, mental, spiritual support, creativity, things that support us in finding joy and purpose in life. So also in this section, I like to talk about our brain and something called our limbic system. The limbic system is deep, deep, deep within the brain, and it is the area of the brain that's constantly surveying for danger. That's all it's doing, and it can't distinguish between that danger. Is it a really bad danger? Is it a not so bad danger? It just sees it as danger. And so what happens, so the front part of the brain here is our executive thinking. This is where we analyze, solve problems, and that's constantly talking to our hippocampus, where we're storing memories, getting files to support our executive thinking, and that's constantly back and forth, back and forth. When fear comes on, and this deep, deep part here in the amygdala, fear stimulates the amygdala. It kicks this stop sign on here in the limbic system, and then our executive functioning is not communicating well with the hippocampus. It then calls in the emergency medical system and calls in cortisol and stimulates the adrenals for the body to also respond in a way. Now, if this is going on all the time and we're in constant fight or flight, our systems begin to break down. So walls, things like self-care, boundaries with others, meditation, family, friends, community. Okay, energy. This is what is really important. This is the fuel for the body, for the house. So think about the energy systems in a home. You've got your electricity, perhaps it's a propane, but it's the things that light the house, that heat the house. And in the human body, the energy system is the efficiency of our mitochondria, our brain neurotransmitters that are talking to the rest of the body. Oxygenation, how much are we taking that oxygen into our cells? How efficient is that? And our sleep quality is critical in our energy systems of the body. So let's just take a look at one of those. Meet your mitochondria. In the most simplest form, mitochondria there's millions and millions of them, and there's multiple mitochondria in each cell of the body. Mitochondria takes oxygen, fats, carbs, and proteins, goes through the system, and creates energy. Energy is the body's currency. It's the ATP, or the money of the body, the fuel. So what things push the pause button on our mitochondria? What things decrease our energy, cause brain fog, and limit the energy currency of the body? So poor gut microbes, increasing age, lipid peroxidizes, which just means our lipids get oxidized, damaged DNA, free radicals, UV lights, sugar dysregulation, glucose dysregulation. So all these things push the pause button on our mitochondria, our electricity of the house. What things push the play button? So we have more energy currency and ATP, really honing in and healing our gut bacteria, certain B vitamins, minerals, other vitamins and minerals. Down here, I love this area. These are flavonoids and broccoli, green tea, curcumin, cinnamon. All of these are phytonutrients that we get from our foods. Those phytonutrients act as cofactors, things that support the biochemical processes of the body to work efficiently. So energy, things like brain fog, headaches, fatigue, pain, sleep disorders. Circle anything that may be that may resonate with you in this area. Okay, moving on to the thermostat of the body. This is our hormonal communication. And there's many hormone systems in the body. So we're going to talk about the sex hormones, glucose, metabolism, cortisol, cardiac health, inflammatory signals in the body. So here is just a schematic about the sex hormones. They're made from cholesterol in the body. And there's so many different things that impact them along the way. We talk about in functional medicine how the hormones are produced, the carriers that they travel with, the cells that are sensitive, so the receptors that accept those hormones. And then when we make hormones in the body, we then need to eliminate those metabolites. So we use the hormone in the body in a biochemical process, and it breaks down, and we have hormone metabolites. We then need to get rid of those. The therapeutic order of hormone balancing is really important, and this is critical and foundational to functional medicine. We start in the gut, then we look at the adrenals, we make sure the liver's detoxifying everything okay, and then we talk about the sex hormones. So hormone fluctuations, low libido, testosterone imbalances, cardiovascular health. This is the area of the body or the functional home that we talk about hormonal communication. So circle what may resonate with you. Okay, oxidative stress, moving right along. Effective elimination through our liver, kidney, bowel function, and sweating. So in the most simplest form, oxidative stress means that you rust. Everything with time breaks down and rust, the body included. One of the ways to slow down that oxidative stress or that rusting is to make sure that things that are coming in that perhaps could be toxic or damaging to the body are then eliminated. And that's the area of oxidative stress. So free radicals are basically anything that comes into the body that is has one less electron, right? So it's unstable. Things like UV light, air pollution, ionizing radiation, smoking, inflammation, all can cause free radicals, which can end up causing DNA damage. So detoxification organs in the body, we've got the liver, gallbladder, kidney, gut, skin, lymph, our stool elimination, and our respiratory system. So in this area, exposures, did you live in an area that was really close to a lot of agriculture or industrial toxins? Are you somebody who has exposure to a lot of plastics? Do you have liver disease? So your liver is not functioning as well. Do you have kidney disease? Are you constipated? What things are impairing your ability to eliminate toxins out of the body? Okay, roof protection as we move right along. Think of the roof protection as our immune system, our skin integrity. What is protecting us from the outside so things don't come in? because once our immune system is stimulated, we have inflammation. A little inflammation is fine and normal and important. But what if the fire gets this big and we're only pouring a bit of water on? I don't think it's going to help. So these are immune cells that are produced when we have inflammation in the body. And remember, initially, if we have a cut or a trauma in the body, we want inflammation to happen, but we want it to resolve and go back to normal. We want all these immune cells to go back to normal. When they don't, and they're hanging out for a long time, that's when we get a bigger fire. Stress is another big impact to our inflammation in the body. And an initial stressor, not a big deal, comes back to baseline. But when stress hangs on for a long period of time, our cortisol stays high and begins to affect the body. Over time, if you're living with that high cortisol, you've been fight or flight, fight or flight, fight or flight, it takes a dive and it is very low, and we get symptoms of severe fatigue, sugar dysregulation, muscle pains, all sorts of things. So roof protection, our immune system. Do you have a history of autoimmune disease, any skin issues, frequent colds and viruses? All right, we're moving right along to our last section here, external toxins. What things are you exposed to from outside that are affecting your health? So think of the body as a total, as a bucket, right? So we want that water line to stay below the top, because once it starts to overflow, that's when we get symptoms. The pebbles represent any harmful substances. So yes, we are not going to be able to live in this world and avoid all toxic things, but you can limit things. So things like alcohol, chemical exposure, stress, isolation, hormone imbalance. We want to make sure that we don't have too many pebbles in here so that it's overflowing with symptoms. The environmental toxic load is becoming more burdensome. We know that in how we're producing things. Also, infectious processes are added to weaken the system. And then, so you have infectious processes, viral, fungal, and environmental toxic load. Add all those together, the system becomes overwhelmed and we get chronic inflammation. So in our last section here, which of these pertain to you? All right, so like we talked about in functional medicine, we take all of that information. I would take your sheet wherever you had the most dysfunction, and I would begin to put the puzzle together. And these are some ways we begin to start with a roadmap or a treatment plan. Case review, we'll prep and plan, then we'll inspect, look at all of your information. We'll begin to break things down, remove those toxins and infections, remove inflammatory sources. And then we'll talk about remodeling and building back up, replacing any depleted nutrients, increasing how well your body is biochemically working. And then maintenance, put you on a program that is something that you can live with, a diet that's really sustainable for long-term health and life. So there, in each of these sections, I'm not going to go through this in detail, but there's certain advanced functional testing we can do if there's breakdown in each of these sections. There's also certain food plans that go with each of these sections that will help support you in healing. At Integrated Spectrum of Health membership, I created a membership that includes, the reason I created a membership was because when people commit to a minimum of 3 months, they may begin to see some shift and change. Oftentimes in conventional medicine, I would lose people to follow-up. We'd get started and then I wouldn't see them for 6 to 12 months and we'd be back to square one again. So part of what I created was the importance of consistency and buy-in from the patient. We have one-on-one visits, we have group visits weekly and weekly educational presentations. every visit we have, you get a personalized plan so you know exactly where you're at, where you're going, what to work on. And all of this leads to improved healing. You will get discounts off medical grade supplements. If you're working with other healthcare team members, I will collaborate with them because communication is critical there. Easy access to me at any time for portal messaging. And I create classes and education that you have access to at any time as part of membership. So I have 3 different tiers, and after our first visit together, we determine what tier will fit where you are in your health journey. Patients that I work with are committed, curious, passionate. They have a flexible mindset. They're open, motivated, joy-centered, and accountable. They want to get to the root cause of their symptoms. They want more energy, clear thinking, improved sleep, greater joy in life, support with lifestyle changes. They want to work with a practitioner that listens in a safe space and in community. It's not a cookie cutter program. It's not a quick get healthy quick promise. All my costs, I try to be really transparent because I think that's very important to create that foundation of trust. ISH members value we uphold equity as core to this membership, cultivate curiosity and openness, honor healthy boundaries, celebrate wins, learn from our falls, and trust the innate wisdom of the body to heal. We have grace with ourselves as true healing is personalized and takes time, and we live life on purpose. So thank you for being here today. If you're curious to learn more, you can check out my website at linjocelyn.com. And I wish you health, happiness, and to live your life on purpose.